Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear us well in the back as well. It's a very interesting topic that we're going to discuss today. Bulgaria here and now a sustainable ecosystem for skill development and innovation. A topic that has been discussed in the past, is discussed in the present, and for sure will be discussed in the future because it's very important for every country and its people's well-being. I want to start with Nancy Schiller, the president of Foundation America for Bulgaria. What is your vision of a sustainable ecosystem for skill and development? Especially, the foundation has done a lot from early age for children, developing a lot of things through high school and even afterwards with all the initiatives that you have made.
Right, there's so many things that we're doing with the foundation right now, with partners who are on the panel with me, which I'm delighted for. I prepared a very brief slide presentation that takes you from the beginnings to the older groups that we deal with. Is it possible to flip that up? Ah, magic. Thank you. Technology, isn't it wonderful? So, our slogan, American optimism meets Bulgarian potential, because the potential here is remarkable. And what we're trying to do is feed ways for young people to recognize what's available to them here through the kinds of support that's available. So, Museico, we start very young, 130 interactive exhibits, science, technology, math, history. So this is a way to start engaging with young people. We move on to the Telerik Academy, which we'll talk about a little bit more. 15 cities, reaching thousands of students to teach technology and interactives. We'll hopefully have the chance to talk about that. Teach for Bulgaria, we're not just seeding creative teachers, but future leaders in the educational sphere to teach in the most modern methodology that's available. We're doing ABF Academy, teaching teachers and principals how to engage with students in project-based learning and technology. We're dealing with the Fulbrights. We bring 30 English teaching assistants to schools all around the country. We are one of the top 10 countries in the world for the numbers of Fulbrights in the country. We deal with Able Mentor, the Association for Bulgarian Leaders and Entrepreneurs, working with high school students, helping them learn how to run a business, or counseling them on colleges and things to do for their future. It's a mentorship program, it's volunteer-driven in at least 12 cities around the country. The BASE program, Business Academy for Starting Entrepreneurs. It's real economy businesses, 14 sessions, how you run a business. Everything from break-even analysis to pivoting your business. It's volunteer-driven. There's a workbook. There's a website. It's based on a US model that's been operating for more than 50 years successfully. It makes a huge difference. AbleBulgaria.org. This is the Able Activator that deals with more sophisticated businesses, helping them get tuned in and get mentors in higher level businesses, technology businesses. This has just started. We've had about 30 people participating. They're going to be doing it again in the fall. Cassie will be talking about this. I won't even go into it because I know you want to talk about that, Kirill. Fantastic partnership between business and technology, and it's one of the topics I know you want to talk about. And
education as well.
And education. An ARC Academy launching next month. This is a training program for the creative industries, programming, design, technology, and I'm delighted it's being organized by a Bulgarian who came back after many years at Pixar. He's tremendous, Anthony. And finally, return.bg. This is a way we're reaching out to the diaspora, trying to encourage them to give back, come back, or invest in Bulgaria. So I'm sorry if I took too much time, but these are 11 of 800 grants we've done, more than 800 grants that we've done in the country. So I'll stop there. I'm long-winded, I'm sorry.
Gentlemen, I'll just go for another question for the other lady in our panel. Adriana, how has the business environment in Bulgaria changed, and what would you tell some of these people who have come back from abroad to search for career development here? Is there a good story why they should actually come back and stay here and earn their money here, raise their family here?
Of course, there are many good stories. Thank you, first of all, for the invitation to take part in this event that really sounds like a beehive. And it's one of the evidence that there are good opportunities to develop here. Look at how many companies came to present their opportunities and job opportunities here. So the business is constantly hiring and has constantly lack of enough well-prepared professionals. So for each and for every young professional that is well-educated, motivated, and has a goal to find its professional development, it's not so hard to reach this goal in Bulgaria in the recent years. And another evidence for this is when we came here via the Цариградско шосе, you see so many messages of the old IT companies that are building this employer branding and competing for young people to come back in Bulgaria and develop their professional skills here. And the employer branding became so big because I'm a communications professional, and he has a lot of experience in the PR field. I know how big this is in our professional field to build the employer brand of the company in Bulgaria. So this is why the big companies compete for the best professionals, and they do their best to offer the best working environment, the best package of remuneration and other benefits, and to develop career opportunities inside and outside the company. There is a possible point of improvement in the coordination, in the better coordination between the state and the business, to the education system to help providing so many well-prepared professionals for the business. But this is the main goal of this event, to motivate more people that are well-educated to travel abroad, to come home back and start their career here.
And Kirill is a really good example of a person who has studied abroad in Harvard, came back and founded a Bulgarian company. Kirill, how do we get to this happy future that everyone seems to want, but it still seems that in Bulgaria it's a bit far away? And how close are we to getting to that perfect spot where less people will go abroad and come back and be able to contribute to the economy of Bulgaria?
Thank you for the question. I'll refer first to our first program, which we started 12 years ago. Together jointly with America for Bulgaria helped us to make one of the lecture halls in the Sofia University to look like a Harvard lecture hall. And every year we have about 60 people that are going through this program. They're some of the top Bulgarian students, MBA students in economics, marketing, accounting, all with the vision that Bulgaria has a brighter, better future. Now, this year we had our 12th year reunion. So our community has grown to about 500 people. Out of these 500 people, 250 people were in Bulgaria and 250 people were abroad. So half of them have left the country and are working abroad. But what was amazing for me to see is that whether you're in Bulgaria or you're abroad, it doesn't stop you to work for Bulgaria. As long as you coordinate enough for causes for Bulgaria, some of my students are having startups, part of the ABLE community that we talked about. But some of my other students are actually working abroad, but helping their friends find markets, find investors, look for opportunities for Bulgarian companies to export. So I think while this is a small sample of 500 people, if we can enlarge this community of Bulgarians that are not focused on taking their key source of money to be coming from the government budget, but they're actually working to do exports, competitive companies looking to coordinate and to conquer foreign markets. If we can grow this group to become bigger and larger, I think we're going to come to a tipping point when there will be enough of us that we can have strong enough economic power, strong enough coordination to bring Bulgaria to the next level. Yes. That's my hope.
And Svetozar, we're talking about education. You're the co-founder of the Telerik Academy that has done amazing stuff, especially in terms of software and hardware and computers. What is the relation at the moment between business, universities, scientists, even the Bulgarian Academy of Scientists, and are you able to collaborate in a way that can contribute to the economy, to the business, and even to a better level of education?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The good thing about the Bulgarian ecosystem in general is the fact that it's relatively small. So you don't need a lot of effort to make a lot of change. Also, when you're small, there seems to be a better sense of togetherness, and this is exemplified in the way businesses are helping each other to change public policy and address issues like education, where we certainly have gaps to fill. So right now, probably for the past few years, I'm seeing a lot of collaboration between organizations and businesses who are working with the government to change educational models, to change legislations, and to make it more adapt to the current realities. Because the fact is that educational system is a very complex organism with a lot of inertia, so we need a lot of external force to literally force the system to change. Sometimes it takes, examples of competition. For example, the different academies and other educational institutions which are non-governmental are showing where the governmental program has gaps. So they are forced again to change and adapt to be better at what they do. But again, it will take some time. But the signs are there for sure. And we're seeing increasingly that, for example, all the companies who are out there in the lobby, who you can say are competitors, and they're also competing for talent, are showing an immense amount of cooperation to change the overall environment, because there's a maturity level and understanding that they're actually not competitors. The competitors is everybody who is outside of Bulgaria. So if we work together, we're actually going to make our whole ecosystem here more competitive. So all the organizations, I can speak for the software industry in general, all the organizations like BASCOM, the Outsourcing Association, the ITC cluster are working together to actually invoke better practices. For example, like having more welcoming packages and policies for people who are coming from abroad. And they're sharing best practices so that we as Bulgaria can be more competitive versus, Asia or Romania. Because Romania is 3 times bigger than Bulgaria and very similar in many ways. So one of our biggest competitor here in the region is actually Romania. But the good thing is, especially with respect to tech, is that Bulgaria and Romania are much better and are building a brand name compared to the rest of the countries around us, even some of the countries in Central Europe. So this is all very, very good signs, and I don't see anything stopping, rather accelerating in this direction.
And Nancy, how do you, so Tuzar was talking about this, but how does the Bulgarian market differs to similar markets in general? We have a lot of software developing and outsourcing in Ukraine, for example, at the moment, and in India, countries that have similar economic problems but are good math studies. Mm-hmm. So how does it differ here, and why is it better for Bulgarians that live abroad to come back here and to give their best shot to succeed in their own country?
There's just such great opportunities in Bulgaria. The quality of life is wonderful in Bulgaria. I've talked to many Bulgarians abroad, the diaspora, through our return initiative, and so many are interested in coming back because there's actually a little bit more creative freedom here than there might be even in the United States. I can only speak to the US market, but the business opportunities are greater. With the country being smaller, it's a downside, but it's also a positive because you can get to people more easily. As you mentioned, you have access. You can meet people that in the United States you can't get to. And so there's more opportunities here. There's great talent, and that's a wonderful reason to come back, and that's part of what we talk about in the Return Initiative. So in November, we'll be going to New York, Washington, and Boston to talk to the diaspora with the Bulgarian Venture Capital Association. and trying to talk more about how you can invest, how you can come back, and the opportunities that exist. So this forum is a great way to begin that, to continue that conversation.
And if everyone has any extra comments on any topic, please feel free to speak. I have a special question for Adriana because it's concerned with the vision and the urban part of our city. In addition to career opportunities, Bulgarians with experience abroad are also interested in the living conditions. And what efforts are being made in the direction, and what are the changes in the urban environment?
Actually, we have to admit that a lot of bad things happened to the urban environment in Bulgaria in the last decades. After the change of the regime, there were no such strict rules and no such commonly perceived criteria about the aesthetics and the strategic development of the cities in Bulgaria, and that's the main reason a lot of bad things happened. Mixture of architecture styles, lack of enough public spaces in the new neighborhoods of the big cities, etc. But now, at the same time, people became to travel abroad, to study abroad, and open their eyes and began to develop this feeling of aesthetics and this high criteria to the urban environment. And now there are a lot of initiatives because there is our initiative, Vision Sofia 2050, which is initiated by the municipality, but is coordinated by a lot of young professionals by me that have background from different business and other spheres, is a good example because it's an example for the civic society and its active participation in the way our cities are developing. And Vision Sofia is such an initiative dedicated to the, we built together with in a dialogue, and we follow two main principles in the process. The first principle is data-driven decision making. We first collected a lot of data, made a lot of research, and after that came the second important principle, the informed dialogue about the way we want to develop our city. And the evidence, the main evidence that we have this strong civic society that is with strong voice, distributed even over the social media, is that in the last 2 years, we managed to involve more than 10,000 professionals, experts from NGOs, non-governmental organizations, from the public sphere, from businesses and citizens of Sofia by themselves to participate in this dialogue. How do we imagine the city in 2050, and what do we want to have as a common shared vision, perspective and strategic development for the city?
And a question to everyone, I mean, especially to people who have their own businesses. Do you know actually a lot of people that have came back from abroad to work here, and what do you tell them when they ask you, okay, but it's a different standard of living, and we still know it is. In Western Europe, in the US, it's a higher standard of living. That's something that Nancy spoke about. She mentioned that it's good, but it's probably better in Sofia, in the central parts of the city, but there's still a lot to work. How do you pursue someone to come back and start working here if they're not sure about the absolutely normal stuff they have to do in their everyday?
I'll take this question. I have a good story. At CASI, this is the Center for Applied Sciences and Innovation, we have a person who was working at Harvard. Her salary there was literally, I think, 2 years' worth of her salary here. She's one of the best biotechnologists Bulgaria has. She's only 32. So how do you persuade somebody who is working at the best institution in the world for biotech, or at least in the States, one of the best institutions, to come to Sofia University and be satisfied with much less? So one thing that she told me, now that she's been back for a year and a half working at CASI, is that at Harvard she felt like it's an amazing place to learn, but she was still a small part of a very big, well-working machine. Here, as Darko said, she can make a big difference. She can make the startup of a biotech cluster. She can lead a team of young PhDs to innovate and start their own companies. She can be part of a teaching team that covers more than 52 PhDs every year. And this actually brings value. Everybody needs, in addition to financial resource, they need a purpose. And Bulgaria is a great place to find yourself a purpose because it still has a lot of things to develop. So together with what Nancy said, with the standard of living is actually not bad. When we have a decent salary, you can enjoy skiing, you can enjoy the seaside. We know all the things with good friends that we can do together. So combining everything together is actually a good angle to come back to Bulgaria, especially if you want to feel that you make an impact to the community that you're living in. It's easier to make an impact here.
Yeah.
And Svetozar, where do startups stand at the moment in the Bulgarian ecosystem? Something that's been booming in Europe, especially by young people who have their own ideas. They go to different, try searching for different funds. How is this working in Bulgaria at the moment?
We are seeing amazing, mind-blowing progress. Every year after year, the level of professionalism is growing fundamentally higher than the year before. Even as we speak, we have companies who are making very solid inroads globally. And just observing, again, the level they operate, the desire to absorb and apply best practices is vastly different from the situation 5 or 10 years ago. One thing that we have in common here, and it is proven by a study from the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor in Bulgaria, is that people generally are not afraid of failure, which is amazing. So people are really ready to quit a job at a multinational company, start their own business, and even if the first idea doesn't work, then the second would. And actually startups represent another alternative, very good opportunity for people coming from abroad with a specialized skill set, and a very good fundament for really making a difference, because I cannot agree more with Kirill that the number one reason people coming here is to have a purpose and making a difference. And generally, when you have experience and education from abroad, you stand above the crowd. I mean, the competition is not as extreme as if you are in Harvard or in the Silicon Valley. So you can really make a difference and people can respect you for that. And like I said, all the great companies that are outside are an amazing one option, and then the other one is startups. And both options are okay, absolutely okay. It just depends on what you want to do at this specific phase in your life. But generally, I'm very happy with what's happening. Just like the example I gave before, the level of collaboration is very, very high. So people, again, are really open. And for example, all the companies that come to Campus X, we don't ask them, what do you expect? The single question that we ask them is, what are you going to give? What are you going to give to the community so that you can qualify to be here and work among the other peers? We even, force people to share best practices, the tools they use, the books they read. I mean, this is like the code of conduct of this community, and not only this community, which, represents this very core idea that, yeah, we're small, but together, if we really abide by the best practices, we can really be successful, not only in the Bulgarian stage, but also on the global stage, for sure.
And obviously there's been a big change in the ecosystem for so many years. Nancy, I was wondering, how did it change in front of your eyes for so many years? Because you were 20-something years ago for the first time in Bulgaria, which were difficult times for the country.
Okay, so we're dating myself. My first trip here was in 1992. I was here in April of '92 as part of the Bulgarian American Enterprise Fund. And our mission was to invest in businesses in Bulgaria. So those of you who have gray hair like me know in '92, there weren't a lot of opportunities. So we struggled mightily, but over time, we found tremendous partners. And we built incredible businesses. We helped build incredible Bulgarian businesses. And 17 years later, we became an overnight success. We started with $55 million and turned it into $500 million working with Bulgarian businesses. This was in the 90s and early 2000s. So if we could do it then with Bulgarians, what you're doing now, absolutely. There's so much opportunity here. And to what you were talking about earlier, what you see in Bulgaria, to remember that change is incremental. And what you see every day, you don't really think about. You don't think about what was it like in '92 and what it's like in 2019. But as a guest in your country, I see it. I see what's changed and the intelligence that's always been here, but people are grasping more for accomplishments in a way that they haven't before because you're exposed to so much more. But walking down Vidisha Boulevard, and I know Sofia is not Bulgaria, but that just for one thing, it's remarkable what's changed. I remember when the tram was running down there and the businesses were closed. Now there's coffee shops, there's restaurants, there's entrepreneurs. I travel all around your country and I see this in all of your cities. So there's so much going on here. It's easy to criticize. That's easy. But look beyond what you see and think about the changes that have taken place over 30 years. It's not perfect, but the United States isn't perfect either, and we've been at it a lot longer. So keep perspective, keep optimistic, because that's what I see changing, and not in a positive way. In '92, there was great optimism here. Now people are a little tired, but you need that optimism. You need that belief that together, collaboratively, that this can be done. You're a small country, but if you all row in the same direction, the opportunities are fantastic. So there's my bit of optimism for you.
And that's great, and I totally agree. But Adriana, what do you think should change even more in the future to have a better ecosystem? And is communication easy with Bulgarian businesses in general?
First of all, I would like to totally agree with Mrs. Schiller about what has to change, and what has to change is the better coordination of all efforts of the state, of the municipalities, of the businesses to reach common goal. Because this is a slow and difficult process to reach a common goal, which is shared by all, by the business and the municipality and the state. But as soon as we have this, it's easier to get there. And that's why the business should also participate very actively in this process of the strategic planning. Because business changes a lot. The business changes more than the, for example, a small municipality, and it has huge impact. And that's why the huge managers should, the biggest managers should give voluntarily their time more in the participation in these public processes. It's not easy to reach them and to motivate them to give this time, but it's not impossible, and this process has already begun here in Bulgaria.
Yep. So we will be very happy if there are some questions from the audience as well. Our panelists would be more than happy to answer everything you want to ask. If someone wants to ask something, of course.
Don't be shy.
Ooh. Don't be shy.
Okay, so maybe a bit later.
Really, no questions for the four amazing panelists.
There's a question from the front. There always should be a first one.
Hello, very happy that you organized this event. I have a question toward Mrs. Schiller.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, Mrs. Schiller. You said you've made a lot of investments in Bulgaria. Right.
Make investments in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
I want to clarify what those investments are.
Yeah. Could you please give us the best successful example of yours?
Okay. So I want to be clear. When I use the word investments, what we do is we grant money. And our expected return on investment is for things like CASI to come or Telerik Academy to develop as a result. We don't expect money back. What we expect is impact and making a difference in society. So I want to be clear about what that investment is. When we were a fund back in the days, we expected an ROI, meaning interest or equity. Now, our equity is this room and you and individuals. But now you're asking me out of more than 800 grants to pick my favorite child. That's not fair. But I will tell you what I think. Obviously, the two gentlemen sitting to my right are amazing impact. They're doing wonderful things in this country for the future. To me, Museko, our children's museum, the interactive museum that we have, is so impactful because it brings families together, it teaches children in an engaging way, it inspires them. They get more than 100,000 visitors a year. And if you haven't been to Museko, you should go. It's not just for children. It's a wonderful place. We train teachers there. We work with scientists. So for me, this is one of the things that is somewhat outside of our private sector emphasis, but has such impact in the future of Bulgaria. So if you ask me to pick a favorite, it's Museko. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yes. Maybe introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kirill, just like one of the speakers there. I have a question for Svetozar as someone who's looking for opportunities in IT industry after many years abroad. Do you have a general notion or do you have an idea how to respond to criticism that Bulgaria does very little research and a lot of development, and a lot of the software development positions maybe are more focused on development and less on innovation or prototyping or research in IT?
I think this is changing with dramatic pace. It is certainly true that the Bulgarian IT industry, the modern ages of it, came to life as an outsourcing destination, but this is I would say no longer true. I mean, you have companies like VMware, SAP, Software AG, and all the others, HP, who are product companies doing products. You have a ton of startups, small and now growing bigger, who are also building products and competing on the product front as well. You have the majority, if not all, of the traditional services companies in IT extracting knowledge and know-how and productizing it. This is happening probably in most of them. And you also have the evolution of the type of services we're doing so that we can stay competitive. Because the living standards in Bulgaria are growing. This is great. On the flip side, we become less competitive because we become more expensive. So the only way to survive is to provide more value-added services. So it's the typical sweatshop kind of business that goes to Asia. We can no longer compete here, and there is no need because, you know, culturally and in terms of business skill set, if you will, we're much closer and serve much better European or North American or just global customers compared to Asia. So the industry is changing because it has to survive, and I think this is for the better. I also see that a lot of new roles and, you know, just professional skill set is evolving here. For example, like product management, product managers, user experience people who can really devise and bring to market products, not just taking one project or a service engagement from A to Z. So that used to be the case, but again, as I said, is rapidly changing, which again is a notion of the evolution of the whole ecosystem. And that's happening not just in IT.
Any other takers on questions? Yes.
Yeah, hello, I'm Isaac, and I'm actually from South Korea, but I've been living in Bulgaria for my whole life. So yeah, I really love Bulgaria, and I really would love to make an impact. And I'm currently studying sustainable technology and business in Germany. And what I want to ask is maybe more specific, but my first question is how does the person that wants to start a business in Bulgaria, like what is the process of finding help and investments? And my second question is how does what ground does Bulgaria have for like development in the area of green energy, and what investments are there, like maybe from the US or I don't know, yeah. So those are my two questions.
Okay, I can quickly take a stab at this and also pass the mic to the other guest. But you know, the process of just the legal format is setting a business in Bulgaria is extremely simple. And then when it comes to investments for startups and, you know, initial early ideas, we have quite active programs and VC funds operating here. Actually, this process is only getting intensified now that we have much higher budgets from the Fund of Funds and other similar programs. Actually, there are a lot of teams and companies from the region, from especially Serbia, Greece, Slovenia, Croatia, who are coming and incorporating in Bulgaria because of the funding that's available here. So if you have a sound idea and if you prepare well, you'll find funding. And you'll also be able, hopefully, to find good co-founders and, you know, the initial core team to help you along the way. Because, as I said, the startup, you know, ecosystem is evolving at a very impressive phase. So that's pretty much it. When it comes to the specific vertical in which you're interested, again, I think it all boils down to how sound your idea is. Bulgaria typically is a good starting phase or starting market. But due to the fact that it is small, typically it's best if you can think global from the get-go. But a lot of sustainable products are made here. For example, the coffee cups that you all drink your coffee with, which you can actually eat afterwards. This is done in Plovdiv. This is invented in Bulgaria, done in Plovdiv. So a lot of cool products like this originate here and can really attack the global world. So just come up with a good idea. And I think you have all the fundamentals to get a kickstart here.
And if I may add, I think the cup fees were recently adopted by one of the major airlines as the de facto cups they're going to use. So it is becoming a global product. Sorry.
And the other thing that you can really take the resource from is that we have great young scientists. There are actually great young scientists that are looking for interesting, applicable ways to apply their science. So when you talk about new technologies like green energy and green technologies, you should really try to get into the young science communities and see if you can collaborate with some of the local scientists and see how you can come up together. Potentially you can provide some of the export markets or some of the business development, but a lot of the actual innovation can be happening in our universities. I'm happy to say that from what I see, Bulgaria is at par on a lot of the science fields, especially the young PhDs today are very competitive. They go abroad, they come back, so get in touch with those. Innovation without science would not happen. The collaboration between business and science is starting to happen more and more.
And if I make two suggestions, go to Startup Navigator. It's a web page that's sponsored by Able. And it gives you leads on how to connect with others in the ecosystem. Startupnavigator.bg or .org, one of those. And go to return.bg. And this is the web page for the Return Initiative, but it helps link people returning to other opportunities in the country. So those two web pages are active, and you might want to look at those as well.
Adriana, is there something you would like to add? Okay. So we're at the end of our discussion. Thank you all everyone for participating and our amazing panelists, Adriana Mikhailova, Nancy Schiller, Kirill Petkov, and Svetozar Georgiev. I'm sure that this topic is going to be discussed again and again in the future, and I hope that the forecast is really going to be very good for the future, and in 5 years we are going to be able to talk about all the achievements that have been done in this period of time. Thank you.
Thank you.